Well, yesterday, President Trump finally released what everyone has been asking him to release.
Nice.
George Santos, the former Republican congressman who had pled guilty to fraud and something called aggravated identity theft, which I think is when you push someone into a closet and switch clothes with them.
So I'm not complaining. I didn't know how to take it. I'm still sort of blown away by it. Like, Trump and Mamdani met in the White House. I don't know if this feels like real.
Grab a fire extinguisher, because Colin Jost and Josh Johnson just roasted Trump so viciously the teleprompter tried to unionize, and the stage lights attempted a quiet escape. These weren't punchlines, they were precision-guided comedy missiles. Trump never even got a chance to launch a comeback. The crowd was already howling like they'd witnessed a public comedy crime scene. If you thought this was a normal late-night segment, forget it. This was a full-scale comedic demolition. Strap in, duck for cover, and let's sift through the glorious wreckage.
Well, President Trump traveled to the Middle East this week, and if I were him, I would have just stayed there because it looked awesome. Trump arrived in Saudi Arabia, where he was greeted with a lavender carpet which matched the color of his tie and also the length.
Reporting that U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi told President Trump back in May that his name appears multiple times in the Epstein files.
No. You're best friends. You're best friends with a pedophile for 10 years, one time, and the world never forgets it.
Somewhere between the late-night spotlight and the non-stop chaos of political news, Colin Jost and Josh Johnson dropped a roast so scorching the studio thermostat tried to clock out. Every punchline landed with Nazi-level precision, except louder, hotter, and with a crowd that wasn't sure whether to laugh or brace for impact.
While traveling on Air Force One to the Middle East to celebrate the ceasefire, President Trump told reporters, "I don't think there's anything that's going to get me into heaven." Then he paused for 10 full minutes, waiting for someone to say, "That's not true." Because Trump can't go to heaven. He's far too busy down here, running hell.
Trump strutted into that comedy blast zone like he owned the place, and instead got hit with commentary so brutal the applause sign downgraded itself to a hazard warning. The audience didn't just laugh. They practically short-circuited.
President didn't want Mamdani to win at all. President was over here tweeting hard. Tweeting like you could tell he was pressing the buttons extra hard on all caps all the time. Wanted to let you know he meant business. Ain't nobody playing with y'all.
This segment wasn't comedy. It was the equivalent of watching someone leap onto a sprinting treadmill and get flung straight into the wall of accountability. Each joke landed before the previous one even finished vibrating through the room. The sarcasm was so dense, the stage practically needed structural support. One moment, Trump looked like he owned the spotlight. The next, he was standing in a metaphorical crater created by his own ego, combusting on impact.
They also rolled out a mobile McDonald's truck for President Trump's visit, featuring Saudi Arabia's most popular new burger, the McJournalist. The Democratic National Committee protested President Trump's plans to accept a $400 million luxury jet from Qatar by flying a banner over Mar-a-Lago reading Qatar-a-Lago. It's the kind of hilarious stunt that makes you realize why the Democrats will never win again.
Somewhere backstage, a production intern probably tried to log the roast in a spreadsheet before giving up entirely and typing "bro, I don't know" on repeat while the audio board struggled to interpret. Laughter levels never previously measured in human history. And Colin, he didn't slow down. Not for breath, not for mercy, not for even the faintest hint of comedic courtesy. This wasn't a roast, it was a slow-motion implosion. Narrated by two comedians who have perfected the art of smiling while slicing through ego. At LIGHTSPEED. The crowd didn't clap. They combusted. One person may or may not have briefly slipped into another dimension. Scientists could study the footage and publish dissertations on how precision sarcasm can bend the fabric of space-time. Meanwhile, Trump sat in the eye of the storm, while metaphorical comedy lightning took aim at anything bearing his name. If time has ever paused purely out of disbelief, it was here. And from that frozen moment, the chaos sprinted. Colin launched into material so scorching that fire codes might need a full rewrite. Every line stacked onto the next like a comedy avalanche, gaining unstoppable velocity. Even the camera struggled to keep up, shaking with the kind of stunned energy reserved for clips destined to become cultural artifacts. At one point, the microphone simply tapped out mid-sentence. Overwhelmed by humor, it was never designed to survive.
John Bolton, who wants people to stop coming up to him to order chicken, has become the third person on President Trump's enemies list to be indicted. And you know you aren't living your life right when you keep an actual list of your enemies. At least that's what my therapist told me. So now she's on the list too. Hundreds of people in Portland sent a message to ICE to leave their city by riding their bikes naked through the rain. And you're not going to believe this, it didn't work.
Josh, followed with observational precision sharp enough to slice through concrete. His commentary stacked with the quiet confidence of someone who had been patiently waiting for exactly this moment. And when his spark finally hit the gasoline, audiences everywhere felt the shockwave. His delivery was smooth, elegant, and beautifully destructive comedy that smiled politely before flipping a table in cinematic slow motion. If sarcasm were legally weaponized, he'd be walking home with a medal throughout the spectacle. Trump tried to keep up with that signature, confidently unprepared energy that defines almost every public moment he has. He cycled through facial expressions, attempted strategic hand gestures, and inhaled dramatically as if confidence alone could rebuild the moment. None of it worked. Each attempted recovery only triggered more comedic collapse. The harder he tried to regain footing, the more material he unintentionally gifted, like handing confetti, cannons to the very comedians already detonating the parade.
And so he was tweeting, and not tweeting, not tweet because he got his own thing, he got that Truth Social thing, but like nobody, I don't know anybody who downloaded it, so then everything he tweet on there ends up on Twitter, so he basically still tweeting, but it's just like he has a platform now where he's like the only influencer. Like I don't know a single other truther, you know what I mean? Like no one else I know is posting truths but him.
The pacing never faltered. Colin would drop a punchline, Josh would crank it higher, and the audience would dissolve into yet another eruption of disbelief. There wasn't a single inch of space for dignity to crawl back in. The jokes toppled like dominoes made of dynamite once the first one fell. The whole structure ignited into a comedic firestorm. Even the TV censors were probably backstage whispering, "Please, slow down," to absolutely no one. A technician likely hit pause 20 times just to breathe. Through the meltdown, watching Trump absorb those comedic reality checks was like watching someone insist a USB is plugged in correctly after the 17th upside-down attempt. Confidence. Very high results. Catastrophic. Colin and Josh piled comparison on comparison until the metaphorical eagle balloon couldn't handle the altitude anymore. It was poetic, but in a gloriously theatrically destructive way.
Ethical experts are also warning that Trump may owe political favors to countries who give him lavish gifts. But based on the way he left the Middle East, I think I know how Trump is going to pay them back. Just in the past 2 days, investors have lost over $6 trillion. Money is leaving the stock market faster than Morgan Wallen at goodnight.
President Trump announced a tariff on all goods imported into the U.S.
By the halfway point, Trump looked metaphorically deflated, physically present, but spiritually Googling how to emotionally Every lifeline had vanished. There was no comeback, no pivot, no dramatic rally moment. Just a man sitting in the center of a hurricane made of humor, sarcasm, and years' worth of contradictory receipts. Whenever he braced for something gentle, the next joke landed twice as hard. The shift from political satire to full-scale comedic deconstruction was seamless. You could feel it in the room, like someone dimming the lights right before detonating the building. Josh leaned in with material that peeled back the theatrics and exposed the fragile gears underneath. And the crowd reacted like they were watching a magician reveal his secret and then fall straight through the stage. Meanwhile, Colin polished every beat with those perfect expressions of disbelief, the kind that deliver entire monologues, without a single word.
And so he's over here, talking about how he's going to mobilize the National Guard if Zohran Mamdani wins, just like really wild stuff. Really hates the idea of him winning. Zohran calls himself a democratic socialist, and Trump was like, no, he's a communist. He's a communist in disguise. It's like, I don't even know what that means. That's, I don't know, that's, okay, I guess. Man said free pre-K, and Trump was like, that must be communism. You know communists, you know those people that want everybody to eat, you know. He wants a city-run grocery store or whatever. That sounds...
Trump has always projected an aura built from sheer volume and unshakable self-belief, but once the theatrics get peeled away, the performance collapses faster than a folding chair under pressure. Colin demonstrated this in real time, each joke removing another piece of scaffolding until the persona sat exposed on the comedy table, blinking under unforgiving fluorescent lights. Even the audience recognized something bigger than a simple "that was funny" moment. This was the kind of laughter that rewires a room's entire electrical grid. Then came the finishing sequence, the final stretch where both comedians braided their material into one colossal comedic thunderstrike. No build-up required. The momentum had already hit maximum overload. The atmosphere tightened, not because people expected the roast to continue, but because they couldn't fathom how it could escalate any further, and somehow, it did. A final cascade of lines crashed down like an encore engineered to flatten. Whatever scraps of pride were still standing.
America elected Donald Trump to run the country like a business, but it turns out he's running it like one of his businesses. I love that you can intentionally ruin the economy and still get to stay president. It's like if you drunk drove your car through the window of the DMV and they were like, license renewed. It's insane. This was the worst week for the stock market since the summer of 2020. But you have to remember, back then, the president was...
After the explosion of applause, all that remained was metaphorical smoke and a man who couldn't decide whether to stand up or pretend he meant to sit the whole time. Josh didn't gloat, didn't pause, didn't seek approval. He and Colin stood there like two performers who knew exactly what they had done and were perfectly comfortable with the aftermath. The audience responded with a kind of laughter that becomes legend, the sort people retell to friends as if they witnessed a once-in-a-generation event. Now the clip lives online, replayed with the devotion usually reserved for championship replays and iconic speeches. People don't gather around screens for politics, they gather to witness a comedic phenomenon. A roast so complete it becomes a cultural reset. Scholars could analyze the facial expressions alone and generate enough data for several psychology journals. Trump will continue appearing on screens, stages and podiums, fueled by unwavering confidence, endless self-promotion, and those signature theatrical hand gestures that somehow always feel rehearsed. But deep in the vault of viral internet history sits a moment he may never outrun: the night two comedians reduced his political persona to confetti. Without quoting him, touching him, or even needing him to speak, now
just in the video, look at the chemistry they have. And this is genuinely unfortunate and unfair to Trump, but the way the camera highlighted the two of them makes it look like a giant heart on a kiss cam. What makes me feel terrible is I don't have a friend that I'm as close with as Trump was to Epstein, you know? They're making drawings for each other, laughing, showing up to weddings, going to shows together. The only way my friends hang out with me that much is if we're both holding Xbox controllers.
The legacy of that comedic demolition is etched in digital stone. It stands as proof that precision jokes can reshape reputations far more effectively than speeches ever could. Colin didn't destroy Trump. He exposed the hollowness of a brand built on volume over coherence. Humor did what arguments never could. And afterward, the world did what it always does. Replays, memes, remixes, slow-motion breakdowns, soundtrack edits, and documentaries dissecting every eyebrow twitch. Trump continues to exist loudly, as always. But that night exists louder, and laughter always wins. In the hours that followed, the internet erupted. Timelines became digital bonfires, every thread a celebration of comedic dominance. No one paused to wonder whether Trump had processed it emotionally. The clip spread faster than a barbecue conspiracy theory, and suddenly everyone was a professional analyst of comedic implosions. Even people who didn't understand buffering claimed expertise.
This week, President Trump tried to rescue the economy from the disastrous policies of whoever was president last week. On Wednesday, Trump announced he was pausing most tariffs for 90 days. Now, 90 days may not seem like a long time, but remember, Trump has only been president for 82 days, and it already feels like a goddamn decade. Just hours before Trump paused the tariffs, he tried to calm investors by posting, "Be cool, everything is going to..."
This is where it went completely off the rails. Comment sections transformed into roaring stadiums. Memes were forged with the urgency of a national emergency. Screenshots of Trump's expressions became emotional support wallpapers. Someone somewhere probably canceled their entire weekend just to rewatch the roast frame by frame. Like conducting a forensic investigation, no one debated who won. The evidence didn't need interpretation. Victory was so brutal it might have filed paperwork with the DMV. Meanwhile, political commentators scrambled, some spinning it as strategy, others softening the blow with euphemisms like spirited exchange. The footage didn't care. You can't paper over comedic annihilation with words. The jokes burned through talking points like acid on aluminum. Even the most loyal defenders sat frozen, staring at the screen with the universal expression, "We can't fix this with adjectives." And of course, merchandise arrived instantly. T-shirts, mugs, tote bags, maybe even bath towels emblazoned with catchphrases. Nobody officially said, but everyone collectively felt people were ready to financially pledge allegiance to that moment. Historians sifting through the digital artifacts of this era are going to be simultaneously baffled and delighted.
But yeah, this whole time, Trump already knew he was in the Epstein files, which is a good reminder that if someone's acting guilty, they're probably guilty. No one's ever going to be like, "Don't look at my browser history. You'll see all the charities I volunteer for." But the good news for Trump is this is America. We don't read. As long as there's no video coming out, he should be A-okay.
CNN exclusive. Newly uncovered photos and video offers a new look at President Trump's past ties to Jeffrey Epstein.
Here you see the two, the opening of the Harley-Davidson Cafe months later. Some new photos reveal Epstein walking into the Plaza Hotel to attend Donald Trump's wedding to Marla Maples. There's also what was found in this review of archival footage from a 1999 Victoria's Secret fashion show, which reveals, as you see, the two men chatting, laughing with one another on the sidelines of that event.
It's getting to the point where it's harder and harder to find a photo of Donald Trump with.
Ever determined to project invincibility, returned to screens with the same gusto as someone insisting a clearly losing score is part of a master plan nobody else sees. The swagger stayed. The bravado remained. The dramatic gestures flourished. But something in his eyes betrayed. Permanent comedic flashback energy, the look of someone who now sizes up every microphone as a potential threat. What makes the roast unforgettable isn't just its brutality, it's its purity. No props, no gimmicks, no shouting, just a razor-sharp comedic minds dismantling a persona that was supposed to be untouchable. The humor didn't manufacture humiliation. It stripped away the noise and revealed what was always there underneath. That's why the world reacted the way it did. It wasn't just funny, it was clarifying. Years from now, that night will trend again without context. A whole new generation will discover the footage, oblivious to the full political timeline, and understand instantly. Because when someone watches a carefully constructed image crumble from sarcasm alone, no background research is necessary. Some moments in history transcend their era, and that was one of them.